What's up, Sharks? This is Mr. O with Soil Flip Notes. Yesterday you completed soil key vocab. I understand it's a lot of vocab words, but like I said, I'd like to get the vocab up front. Now we're going to move into the content notes, meaning your tests mostly are based off this information. So this is a great review tool, but we're going to start with in your composition notebook, table of contents. This is going to be number 6, which will be soil notes. We're going to general definition of what soil is. Now, if you don't know, soil is something different than dirt. Dirt is what you get when you play in soil. You get dirty. However, soil is formed as rock is broken down by weathering and mixes with the minerals and other stuff on the Earth's surface. Now, think about all the things you did last year in ecosystems and weathering and landforms and things you did in 3rd grade with soil. This all comes back. Now, soil has 5 ingredients. Just like a pie would have ingredients, soil has ingredients, meaning all soil around the world have these 5 ingredients. The differences between all soil around the world is how much of each ingredient they have. The 5 ingredients of soil. Number 1 is weathered rock particles. This is the main ingredient. Weathering of rock, how rock is broken down, is a factor of how soil is made. You also have in soil water, air, minerals or nutrients, and organic matter, which is known as humus. Don't confuse that with hummus. You'll notice that these words are from your vocab words from yesterday. A soil's composition, which means what soil is made up of, determines 3 important things. These 3 things are simply what you can grow in it, what you can build on it, and what happens when rainwater falls on it. Depending on how the composition is made, meaning depending on how the ingredients are set up in the soil, these 3 things will be changed based on where you are in the world. There are major factors that affect the soil that forms in an area. Now, this allows all soil to be similar, but this is how all soil is different because all areas in the world are different. So, because of all areas in the world are different, soils will be different. The major 6 factors that will affect how soil is in an area. What kind of rocks are there? There's igneous or metamorphic or sedimentary, depending on how much or how little of those rocks. The climate in an area. Hot, cold, rainy, wet, dry. Landforms in the area. The abundance of landforms or lack of landforms in the area. Plants. Too many, too little, what kind? Animals and other living things. There are a lot of animals. There's a lot of living things. There's not a lot of animals, not a living things. All these things affect soil. And also time. Time meaning how much time does soil have to break down the rock, to put more rock into the soil. These 6 factors will affect how soil is made in a certain area. There are 3 major categories of living things that will affect how soil is in an area. These are plants, microorganisms, and animals. They all provide something that's useful. Plants provide organic matter. They lose leaves or they die and they decompose. All these things are great for soil. Lack of plants affect how healthy soil is. With microorganisms, they provide nutrients. Just like your body needs nutrients, soil needs nutrients too. Dead plants and animals are helpful because microorganisms will break them down and decompose them, and they will poop out nutrients, just like when you learned the food chain last year. Decomposers, microorganisms, would be in that category. They provide nutrients. And then animals, they add air and possibly water by loosening, mixing soil as they dig and tunnel through it. Think about worms and moles and mice and snakes. As they tunnel through, bugs, they loosen up soil, allowing the soil to have air. And as we talked about earlier, air is one of the ingredients of soil and allows water, when the rainwater hits it, it allows water to fill into those air gaps. Moving on to one of the vocab words you learned yesterday, which is soil horizon. Remember, soil develops in layers, and each layer is unique. The soil horizons look like this, and there's key information for each soil horizon. With the O is actually not a soil layer. It's just what organic matter will be laying on top of the soil. It's called the O layer because it's the organic layer. But soils go in order with the alphabet. All real soils are A, B, and C. With A, it's your topsoil layer. This is the stuff you buy from Walmart or from Home Depot to plant your things in. This contains humus with mineral particles. This is plant food. And so usually the darkest layer. It's great for plants, especially with crops. So in North Carolina, we have a very rich A layer. In other places like the desert, they have a very slim A layer. With the B layer, there's very little organic material because all of it was taken in the A by the plants. This is where you'll find clay and minerals that are washed down from A. This is where gravity takes in place. When weathering happens and water rains on soil and things are pushed down, this is where they'll go down to. And typically the B layer is brownish to reddish in color. In North Carolina, we have red clay. However, in other parts of the world, when I grew up in Buffalo, we have brown clay. And C is the deepest layer of soil. It contains the largest and least weathered rock particles.
Miss Cuffy, if you're in the building, please buzz port 100, Miss Cuffy.
Because of the weathering taking place on the surface of the earth, the layer that's the furthest from the surface, obviously you get the least weathering. And then this is typically a light brown to yellow in color, which in color will tell you how rich soil is. The darker the color, the richer the soil. The lighter the color, the less nutrients and the less rich the soil. And the R layer is the layer of bedrock. This is where the plate tectonics start, and this is actually not a soil layer. A, B, C, all soil layers. O and R, actually not soil layers. Like you learned about in your key vocab, soil has properties. A physical property are things used to describe, classify, and organize things. We do this with people all the time. We talk about their hair color, their eye color, how tall and how short they are. Soil has property too. Here's 5 of them. You got texture, fertility, pore space, chemistry, and water retention. In short, this is we're going back over your vocab from yesterday. Texture is how it feels. It's determined by the size of the weathered rock particles. If the soil is not well weathered, it's going to be rough and bumpy and chunky. Fertility means how well plants can grow there, how much nutrients are in the soil. If it's fertile soil, it's good for plants and animals. If it's not fertile soil, not many things will grow there. Pore space talks about the space in between soil particles, sand being the largest and clay being the smallest, which means when rainwater falls on it, water will run right through sand. However, it will not run right through clay. It'll get stuck up and hold clay. That's why clay is typically wet. Chemistry is the pH level of the soil. This will talk about if your soil is acidic or basic. Plants like to be near neutral, but with slight acidity, just not high acidity. This is where acid rain comes into play. And then water retention is the ability for a soil to hold water. This will link up just with pore space. So you can see how pore space would lead to water retention. Meaning the higher the pore space, the less water retention. The lower the pore space, the more water retention. This is the end of your notes. Please make sure you have them written in your notebooks, and I'll be checking those in the morning. Have a good night.